Like Excellency, ladies and gentlemen, welcome once again to Cambodia Economic Growth Policy Dialogue. Today, I have the pleasure to have the EU ambassador to come and join us, and so I have a nice dialogue on the work that the European Union has been working in Cambodia, because as you all know, the role of European Union is very important, very critical in Cambodia, not just in the field of economics, but in trade, in social program, in education, in fishery. I would say it's very comprehensive, but I would not even try to describe, because there's in my years of working with the EU, I have follow a lot of their program, and I thought it'd be best to have the ambassador himself to come and share with us. And of course, there's so much topic that I would like to engage with the ambassador. We can talk about trade, we can talk about cashew, we can talk about climate change, we can talk about uh, pretty much, the WTO, what's happening, that sort of thing. So anyway, Ambassador, I can call you Igor, okay?
You
Yeah.
can, with
Let's
pleasure.
call me Zapana, yeah. At least the dialogue will flow better. But anyway, please give a good introduction on the EU, the work of the EU that for last God knows how many years, more than 30 years already. Yeah.
Sure. Well, first of all, thank you for having me. It's a real pleasure to be on your show today. Indeed, we've been here for a while now. I think just immediately after the Khmer Rouge was kicked out of the capital, not so long after we started with humanitarian projects, with demining projects, some small projects in the area of health as well. And we've been steadily expanding over the years to the very comprehensive partnership that we know today, which entails, as you said, trade. We give duty-free, quota-free access to the European market under our everything but arms scheme. But also on development. There is a very sizable amount of development cooperation that we still do in, I think, almost all sectors of Cambodian society. So I'd be happy to talk about all of that, and thanks again for having me today.
Yeah, thank you. Well, let's start with trade, which
Sure.
is to me, I consider trade is very important for our economy. Cambodia is a trading nation. After the war, after the when we have our peace process in '93, we thrive through trade. Uh, about 10 years later, when we joined the WTO, it was really a game changer for Cambodia. So it's all trade driven. Even today, we are doing so much trade, not just with the EU, with the US, with the region, with Asia, with China. So, but with the EU, we have a very sizable trading opportunity. We export for, I think the trade from last year is about 7 billion with the relation with the EU. But of course, the bulk of it is going toward the EU, not so much on this side. I would say thanks to the everything but arm initiative that the EU have given to us. So anyway, what is your take on our trading issue?
Well, it is true that I think that Cambodia has benefited a lot from the everything but arms scheme. I think now we're your second export destination after the United States. And most of it, I think about half of it is garments.
Yeah.
There's also some travel goods, footwear, bicycles, solar
Yes.
panels, but
Yes.
most of it is still today garment, which is sourced here in Cambodia to be exported to the European Union. And I think we've seen some steady growth of that sector even at the beginning of this year, and that might set to continue in the years ahead. of course, through that process, I think you've become also richer,
Yeah.
and you will graduate soon, become a middle-income country in
Yes.
2029, which in turn will also have some impacts on the
Yes.
trading relationship with the European Union, because of course the trade regime and
Yes.
the tariffs we apply are different for least developed countries, which you are now,
Mm.
as compared to middle-income countries, which you will become.
Yeah. Well, I would say there's always some trade-off. When we applied to join the WTO, at that time we were really poor, and we have a lot of support from the world, from the world for that matter, from the EU, from Japan, from Australia, US, and at that time we have a lot of advice, okay, from international organization, and some view that look, you should ask them to lower the bar so that you can export more. Then the other view, the other school will say, no, I mean, you guys should not ask them to lower the bar. You should instead use the opportunity that you have a lot of help now to have them build your capacity so that you don't have to walk across the bar. You can become a better athlete and then you can jump. So I think my view is the same now that yes, when we in 2029, when we graduate from the LC status, we will have to compete. We will lose some trade preference. But on the psychological side, it's worth it because you figure, right? It's only slightly above more than 30 years. We emerged from a dirt poor country in less than one generation. You know, we could become a developing country. So it must be something, to be proud of. But at the same time, now you have to be more competitive. Now you have to sharpen your competitiveness. Now you have to look at your, trade diversification. You have to look at your trade facilitation. You have to look at the other thing that other developing country are doing. So no more freebies, right? But at least we with the EU we have 3 more years, right,
Correct,
from trade
correct.
preference, right?
So we will continue to apply the current trade preferences until 2032.
Yes.
So 3 years after your graduation. And by the way, I fully agree with you. It's not because there is that process and those trade regimes will change that you have to stop your development. On the contrary, I think it's the trajectory of any country. By the way, different countries also in Asia are going through the same graduation almost at the same time. But I think what will be important for us, that some of the tariffs will change, but also what we call the rules of origin.
Yes,
So
yes.
where products are being sourced, and currently we apply the rule of a single transformation.
Yes.
So that means that we avoid transshipment. So there has to be some added value, one layer of added
Yes.
value, for example, of garment in Cambodia. After graduation, we will ask for a double transformation, which means that you have to add more value here in
Yes.
your factories. But I think it's a good thing.
Yes.
It will, I hope, force also some of the industries to adapt, to create jobs of somewhat better quality as well. And I think it will be the necessary stimulus both on the agriculture side as well as on the industrial side to move up the value chain,
Yes,
as the
yes.
economist would say.
Yeah, I would say for us, garment footwear is definitely one area that we will continue to thrive. And here the other day I met a factory owner, and he proudly told me that, look, you should come to see our factory because we're so automated. I mean, a lot of automation. I say, wow. I mean, so I say, not much government worker. I say, not as much as the other factory, but we are proud in the sense that we bring a lot of mechanization, a lot of technology, a lot of, he even mentioned AI. I say, wow, I mean, how use AI for that? But that is one part that we have to move up the value chain anyway.
Mm.
The wage have to be better, the social audit have to be better, and to me, that's what we want. We don't want to be having our workforce to work like slave. We don't want that. At some point we have to move up the quality side, and to me the race to the bottom is not benefiting us, right? But that's on the garment factory side. But we are also talking about other sector like in agriculture, for example. So I would say this is something that the EU can do a lot to help us, and I did meet with the GIZ. They have good program to, for that matter, to train exporter on the rule of origin. And I would say, I talked to Ken Lu, the TAFTAC. He's talking about the competitiveness of the nation, because we need to have cotton, right? But not many company would want to invest in that, because number one is a lot of money, and number two is environment, because a lot of discharge. But I say, okay, but you can move into a specialized zone where we can have better environmental control. He said, yeah, that could be it. But it takes a really strong commitment from the government, yeah.
No, for sure. I mean, you know that we've always been a proponent of higher labor standards, higher environmental standards, and that, in our view, in our experience, does not come at the price of your competitiveness. Quite the contrary. But it is part of Cambodia moving up the value chain, having more quality jobs, and delivering the quality products that you want. And you're right. You mentioned agriculture. The very same thing is true for agriculture. I think you mentioned cashew at the beginning. I think it's a very nice example of what we do. Currently, some 97% of the cashew which is cultivated here in Cambodia is exported elsewhere to be processed there, and then to go to the European or the US or Australian markets. And what we've said, together with the Ministry of Agriculture, together with the cashew farmers, is how can we ensure that the processing is done here, that the value is added here, creating more decent jobs here. And if you'd say that, for example, suppose you would say 70% instead of 3% is being processed here instead of being exported for processing elsewhere, you would create some $2 billion of additional GDP here. So we've started to invest in that, support farmers to help them dry, store the cashew, to sort them as well, which seems to be a peculiar issue for cashew. But also work with, I think we trained some 6,000 farmers to do exactly that, but also to give them credits and financing, because a lot of the cashew farmers, they will give an advanced payment to whomever is buying their cashew, and without having the necessary financial space to do the actual investment. So it's a very short-term cycle. So we need to break that cycle so they have the money to invest in the processing. So we hope there will be more cashew in the European supermarkets, because first of all, they taste very, very good, if I may say that. But also because there is a real market there for sustainable cashew produced. I also see a lot of innovation, for example, cashew and milk, cashew and all kinds of things. So I'm very optimistic about the work that we do on cashew.
Well, cashew, Sika, they make good gin, good vodka. Now he's working on cashew brandy.
Right.
And he approached me to help to asked my help to work with the Ministry of Commerce and Ministry of Agriculture how to put a geographical indication
Mm,
on the cashew brandy. So, but these are some serious value added.
mm,
You know, I spoke to Japanese industrialists, and they say that look, for us, we are industrialists, but if you can put into one particular place, so in this case, will be the agriculture
mm,
special economic zone in that case,
mm,
which the government is putting in place in Kampong Thom now. That if you can bring the apple, the cashew apple, because after you pick the cashew, you have the apple is left, right?
mm,
20,000 metric tons in one place, we can do it. We can refine into a marine paint, industrial paint, for example. Uh, the Indian are also investing into brandy also. And we're talking about now working with some technology company to turn them to biochar because there's a possibility to sell carbon also. So I think the critical mass we have now, when you talk about 800,000 metric tons, that, as you mentioned, so I mean, 700,000 I export out, the critical mass is there. But how do you value add all that? So I think I read with great interest the EU thick report on the cashew. Great interest. I mean, we have to continue to implement that, and I think you will improve the life of the farmer. And I think it would link a lot to in the future how we can help this farmer to meet the, say in this case, the deforestation aspect of the EU, for example. Yeah.
No, 100%. I mean, this is, we spoke about garment, we spoke about agriculture, and how basically Cambodia's economy can prepare for being a middle income country with all that entails. But I think fundamentally, another area that we're working on is education. If we want Cambodia to move up the value chain, have more expertise in different areas, have more engineers, mathematicians that are able to tilt Cambodia's economy to a different level, it is all about education. And we know that the starting point of Cambodia was very low. The Khmer Rouge had basically erased, quite literally, a lot of the education facilities around the country. So it's an area that we've been investing in now for almost 2 decades. We've done a lot of support, financial support to primary education. And now we move increasingly into technical education or even tertiary education. And it's also a bit of a call to the students that might be watching. Do look for also opportunities in Europe. We're now providing scholarships for many Cambodians who would want to study in Europe, then come back and be useful to your economy, because the current numbers are very low of Cambodians studying in Europe. With the Erasmus scheme, it's about 70 a year, which is way too low.
Yeah, way too.
So we're providing now 500 new scholarships in what we call STEM areas, so science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. We will give 30 scholarships for studying energy in Grenoble in France, specific scholarships in water and fisheries. So there is a good opportunity there. And allow me also to use the opportunity to say that we will have a Study in Europe fair in November, 14th of November, where we invite the students to come and join us and meet directly with some of the schools who provide those scholarships. I say that also in a global context. We want also our European universities to remain competitive. We're investing ourselves more in education, university education. But it's it's clearly something that we've been partnering on for a long time, and that we look forward to doing in the future as well.
Well, I every time I meet an ambassador, the one thing I always remind myself is to thank them for exactly what you just said, is the scholarship that those countries gave to Cambodia, because I think after the Khmer Rouge, education is everything. You cannot grow an economy when your skilled labor force is not there, when you don't have professionals who can compete with. Let's start with just the region. You cannot compete with Singapore because their English, their level of education so high. Okay, we don't compete with Singapore, but we sure can compete with Vietnam. We sure would want to compete with Malaysia, that sort of thing. So I think, yes, investing in education is a clear priority. And how do we get the young people who are watching now to say that, look, guys, there are 500 per year. You guys have to shape up. You got to work hard on that. And in fact, one of my assistants, in my team, he got a scholarship from high school to study in Italy,
Okay.
and he's from the countryside.
Okay. Did he enjoy it?
Yes, well, he's back now,
he's
and
back,
then
yeah.
after he finished his high school, he got a scholarship to study in the Netherlands.
Oh, there we go.
And now he's working with me. He's doing all my aide memoir. So, I mean, that's what I'm talking about. Quality, quality education and opportunity for people, not just in the city. Quality for, if you're good, you could be from anywhere. So I really support and admire this program, and particularly you focus on STEM. That's the future now with AI, with the fourth industrial revolution, that sort of thing. We need that access to this high skill. Even our industry now, we're moving up the value chain now. How do you deal with a workforce if coming from a garment factory, now they shift to work with IM Asia, who are assemble car now. Now the EV car is coming. You need people who have this scientific knowledge. Yeah.
You're absolutely right, and as you bring up EVs, let me just say that I find that Cambodia has taken very courageous and very bold steps to meet renewable energy targets.
Yes.
With the clear aim to have to source 70% of your energy from renewable sources by 2030.
Yeah.
I think that's one of these issues where we can we see very much eye to eye, because the green transition, I think, is going to be essential if we want to survive the current challenges of climate change. We talk a lot about the wars in Ukraine, Gaza, and elsewhere, but the fundamental threat to humanity remains climate change. It's something that should all worry us a great deal, and even more important than worry is to take the action needed to have our planet adapt to that. And energy is a big part of that story. So that's yet another area where we look forward to partnering with Cambodia, see what kind of investments that we can make, where we can contribute, because we too have set ourselves renewable energy targets, but also targets to become carbon neutral as soon as possible. And I think the latest indication is actually that we're slightly ahead of the targets that we had set ourselves. Because I think once you give that political signal to your industry that is the way to go, industry adapts, and industry even gets a competitive edge. Rather than going back to say we will source from coal, it's important that your industry gets ahead and not gets back.
Yeah. Well, You know, Cambodia ratified the Paris Agreement
Correct.
since 2017, you know, and we have made a commitment. We have a long-term strategy for carbon neutrality. We're now working on under Article 6 of the Paris Agreement on climate change, you know, to do the carbon sale, for
Yeah.
example.
Yeah.
These are the area that we are quite, you know, comfortable and I have in my trade policy board, I have Tân Pondok, who is a Secretary of State in the Ministry of Environment. He's expert in that, and he tell me a lot of things that the Ministry of Environment is working with private sector to identify, say in this case, for example, the wildlife, you know, a wildlife association or something. They working to do community forestry management, and then they sell carbon, you know, offset, right? And there's other activity that they're doing to generate some revenue to preserve the environment, that sort of thing. So I say that on this one we can see eye to eye. And for example, mini beer. The government have asked me to be this Japanese electronic company who's been here for the last 10 years already. They say, look, you should expand because you're doing well. And but you know what they say? They say we will expand, but we need access to renewable energy. So now they move to Posat because His Excellency Karatna can provide him the renewable energy. So he said by 2030, we need to be 100% renewable. And they did it. They start the operation. So these are something that I would say we on track. And our parliament, you know, the Ministry of Mine Energy have submitted for the parliament approval, I think several projects, you know, for endorsement by the National Assembly, wind, solar, that sort of thing. So I think we're on track on that. I'm not worried about that. To me, I would say on climate is how do we work with the EU to build the capacity. Say, for example, if we talk about uh, let's use cashew is a good example, or rubber for that matter, because we produce so much. How do we build the capacity of this plantation owner of this business to say, okay, guys, by this year, you know, you'll be audited. There'll be a social audit, there'll be environmental audit. How do you get organized now? You know, so that when the time comes, you know, you will meet the compliant aspect of it. I think to be fair to this guy, it's more the unknown that really, you know, affect them, because they know that, look, I have market access, but in return I need to comply, right? So how do we spend more time to educate them to say these are the steps? I had a delegation from UK. UK is not part of EU, but it's Europe, okay? But I think your standard is the same. UK Whitworth, which is this big wholesale company that buy dry fruit, right? They came to Cambodia. They went to see the factory, the cashew factory. They come back to me. They say, look, we are ready to buy 600 tons this year. And if we meet, if the processing company meet our requirement, BRC requirement, next year we increase to 1,500, right? And then they give the map on the factory floor how they should structure, remodel, re-innovate, whatever. So that's how you do the whole supply chain. If you can do this, you'll be BRC compliant. So I say that's what I need, because there's one thing to talk about standard, but there's another thing to know what it is. So I mean, and I like to work with a company like that. They come with very clear, sort of like knowledge, you know. They say do this A B C, and then you meet, right?
Sure, sure. Well, maybe let's just unpack this
Yes.
for 2 seconds, because we're talking about different sets of requirements, I suppose.
Yeah.
Um, First of all, there to export to Europe, one needs to meet a number of sanitary
Yes.
requirements or phytosanitary requirements. That is not so much an issue for cashew,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
it might be an issue for rice. We
Yeah.
had an issue earlier this year when we found in Cambodian rice small residue of
Ooh.
pesticides
Ooh.
being used. And it was stopped at customs in Europe, who said, well, this doesn't meet our standards. So what we're now doing is helping the Ministry of Agriculture set up a national lab
Mm.
whereby you can actually have the capacity to test exactly the level of pesticides on the rice or on any other agricultural product. And of course, we need to inform the farmers, for example, not to spray too much
Yeah.
pesticides as well. That's number one. Number two is on energy. You mentioned the Japanese example.
Yeah.
A lot of the European companies who source here, I think about Adidas or
Yeah.
some of the big brands, Zara, their board or their stakeholders, they say, we want you to source from factories which produce with renewable energy, just like the Japanese
Yes. Yes.
example you've mentioned. That is not a requirement from the EU, but
Yeah.
these are particular
Okay.
brands who would say,
Yes.
we need also as a commercial gesture,
Yes.
environmental gesture, be able to be sure of that. And then there's a third requirement you briefly touched upon, and that's regarding deforestation. Again, that would not be so much the case for cashew is not part of our legislation for now, but rubber is.
Rubber. Okay.
Cambodia produces rubber, as you know, also for the European market. And we would do regular tests, so to speak, at our customs when the products enter the European market to say, is this rubber produced from an area of land which has recently been deforested? If the latter is the case, there would be an issue. So basically the call on the audience is just don't do any deforestation. I think you will agree there has been a problem with deforestation here in the past, and also here and there still now. What we try to do with the deforestation regulation is to say, we in the EU do not want to be responsible for such a critical part of what has contributed to climate change.
Yes. Yes.
And we do not want to buy a product that has led to cutting down half of the Amazon rainforest.
Yes.
Hence, can we just control what comes in and send a signal to the markets out there to stop deforestation? So there's different elements of requirement, really. Sometimes at EU level, but sometimes just companies who want to be better than the others.
And that's why it's so critical to have a lot of seminar. I mean, you have I would say like GIZ, a Rise Plus. Let them do more of this outreach. 1 day or 2 day in different province, depending on the crop, of course. On rubber, on whatever, and then say, look, guys, these are the regulation. These are not mandatory, but these are private sector, requirement. So sometimes, like you said, sometimes we don't know the difference.
Sure.
We have a tendency to lump everything, when in fact, at the end of the day, it's like, okay, this is only a pesticide, residue. That's why your rice cannot get in. Has nothing to do whatever, right? So that's something that I would really encourage probably you, and you tell the agency that you've been financing to say, look, focus more on this sort of aspect, right? So I think it's a lot of things the EU done, right? Education, SLAM. I'm very excited about SLAM. I'm gonna go back and tell because you see, I lecture regularly at various universities, state university, regularly. Rule at the IUPP, at the Royal Academy, at NUM. Now I start to, whenever I can, to lecture at the provincial level because it's not fair that only the kids in the city have benefit of my knowledge. So I last month I did in Battambang, a few months ago I did in Sihanoukville. But But these are the sort of message that I'll be your agent. I will promote for you.
Thank you.
You know, guys,
Study in
look,
Europe.
yes, study in Europe. Well, I mean, look, at the end of the day, it's all about soft power.
Mhm.
It's all about soft power.
Mhm.
You know, when you watch Netflix, I love watching Netflix, but mostly Spanish,
Spanish series, yeah.
yeah, series, because, that's how I practice my Spanish.
Mhm.
But I find that Spanish Netflix, I mean, they have a tendency to speak much faster than Latin.
It has nothing to do
Latin.
with the Penelope Cruz that you
Yeah,
like.
but the film in Latin America, they're much slower. They speak
True,
more proper
true, true,
Spanish.
true, true. Well, don't tell the Spanish that they're not speaking proper Spanish, or I'll be in trouble.
But anyway, I want to touch base a bit on some larger macro issue a bit, on the international multilateralism,
Sure.
because as you know, Cambodia is a strong believer in multilateralism, and we've been working with the EU for a long time, or with ASEM. We even host the last ASEM summit here, because we believe that multilateralism is the future. Of course, I mean, Trump 2.0 is a sort of rejection of that, but I'm quite confident that the EU will maintain the cap on that, and we have to persevere. We have to look for ally, to who believe in the same thing. WTO, we have to continue to support the WTO,
Mhm.
and maybe not a total multilateralism, because if the US is not interested,
Mm.
plurilateral.
Mm. No, I 100% agree with you. Uh, we've um, we've had a very good exchange always on multilateralism, because we believe that we need strong multilateral institutions if we want to face the challenges of today. And that goes for climate change. We
Yes.
spoke about the different COPs and the different
Yes.
agreements that were made. We need to stick to them to be able to combat climate change. That goes for trade. We need the World Trade Organization to fix some rules.
Yes.
Because without rules,
Yeah.
we only have basically the law of the jungle, and
Yes.
everybody doing just whatever. And it goes also when it comes to the basic principles of how one behaves against another. We need to protect the sovereignty of a country.
Yes.
That's why we're so grateful for Cambodia standing up for the national sovereignty of Ukraine.
Yes. Yes.
In the
Yes.
face of Russia's aggression. So really, the United Nations is sometimes a bit taken for granted.
Yes.
But it could unravel very fast, and that would be a very, very dangerous thing for the world. Again, I could just keep on going with the examples, but if I look closer here to Cambodia, I see the disputes in the sea.
Yeah.
And I think we need the UN Convention, the law of the sea, to be able to be an arbiter between who's wrong and who's right. You cannot have eternal conflicts and contested
And my
waters.
was just in Nice.
He was just in Nice,
for this
correct?
famous conference.
On the Ocean Conference.
Yes.
The oceans is one of these common goods.
Yes, it is.
You cannot just
The
say
common
I
good.
protect this part
Yes.
or this.
Yeah.
You cannot do this unilaterally.
It's the same as climate change.
Same as climate change.
We all have an obligation to protect our Earth. There's only one Earth.
100%. So I know multilateralism is under threat. The rules-based international order is under threat, but we know as European Union that we need international cooperation. We need international rules. We ourselves are made out of the idea that to prevent another war, we need to work together. We need to fix some common rules. And in a way, what we see at an international level is exactly the same thing. Now, there can be frictions, there can be disputes, but if people do not stick to the basic rules, we will have a problem.
No, I think for me, we need to make sure that the WTO, of course, the WTO have to go through some sort of reform. I mean, it's quite clear. It's normal, like any institution, after so many years, you need some adjustment, you need some renovation, but it's not existential. It's an improvement, right? So to me, I say, okay, well, if the WTO have to go through some reform, let there be some reform. Let there be consensus, so that at the end of the day, everybody apply the same rule. Not because Cambodia is a small country. We need rules because we cannot, without international law, we are at the mercy of the big country. So that's why for Cambodia, we support the multilateralism, and we are not rich country, okay, but when we decide to host the ASEM, when ASEAN is a rotational, so I'm not mentioning that, but next year we will also host francophonie. It's not cheap, but we say, look, it's our gesture, it's our contribution to the world. Francophonie, they're going to be like some 90 some delegation coming, to Siem Reap. I'm excited about it. But beside the logistical excitement, there's a strong message behind that we believe in multilateralism. We believe that francophonie has a place to play, in terms of the peace, the justice, and the team. We pick a very good team, peace and justice, and in the context of a global, sustainable development, right? Without peace, how can you have sustainable development? So I think, and of course, what we want to show off also, let's face it, is that we want to show off how well we did with the ECCC. It's a historical, this transitional justice. We have accumulated 2 million pages of archive, right, relating to international public law, right? And the world is coming to learn from us. So to me, I think as a country that used to be the beneficiary of the world goodwill, we want to be part of that giver now. In so many ways, we are contributing, like in demining, in peacekeeping, operation. We are active player now with transitional justice. So I think, yes, we do have something to offer the world also.
Absolutely. You forgot to mention Angkor Wat.
Yes.
Because I don't know where the summit
Yeah.
will be, the Francophonie summit.
It'd be in Siem Reap.
But there you go. I think it will
Yes.
be a nice
Yes.
opportunity for the world to discover, or for some to rediscover, this beautiful, extraordinary, magnificent temples that you have.
Yeah, I think I already imagine the 90 some delegation, head of government, head of state, lining up in front of, with the background of Angkor Wat, And can you imagine every delegation would come with their own media? So it's more effective than paying CNN, Well, Ambassador, I think Igor, I mean, we have a good chat about global issue, regional issue, domestic issue, substantive issue on like climate change, like education, STEM. I think it's a rich discussion we had for a short time. But let me just say thank you to you once again for taking the time to come and have a dialogue with me. But to me, I would want to wrap up by addressing mostly the younger audience, who are, number one, if they watch our show, they have to be good in English. Okay, it's quite clear, quite clear. So for you all who are watching this show and you're young, you're educated, consider that education is so important for you, and take advantage of what the EU has to offer now. 500 scholarship, that's a lot. But can you imagine 500 people who have influence 4 or 5 years down the road, you come back well educated, you can bring that knowledge back home. If you live now in the countryside, you bring that knowledge to your province. This powerful. These are very powerful, message that I want you all to take advantage of that. Yeah. So once again, I hope you find this dialogue fruitful, and I hope you can learn something out of it. Yeah. So Igor, my friend,
Thank you very
thank you
much.
so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.